Would you like me to park your car for you, sir?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. Hey, when I want to pick it up, what should I do?
Just call down and we'll promise to have it in 20 minutes.
Great. Thanks for being so helpful.
Hey, Houseman wants his car in 20 minutes, so make sure it's down in about 3 hours.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman. I, of course, am the Glenn Hausman hosting the show, and I want to thank you all for listening in week after week after week. I'm having such a great time doing this show. People are hitting me up to do these great interviews, and I can't wait to see what this fall has in store for where we're going to take the show, the direction that we're going to go in, and all the great interviews that we're going to be having. I've got commitments from several major hotel company CEOs already, so I know that we're going to be amping up our coverage. And that's something that this is really all about, is making sure that we get you the news and the insight that you really want, and take that road warrior perspective, take that industry perspective, kind of mash them all together and make something really great. And be sure to check out my columns twice a week in hotelmanagement.net, and follow me online at Traveling Glenn on Twitter and on Instagram. And you get notification on when these shows are posted, but please subscribe to the show and give me that 5-star rating on iTunes. I would much appreciate that. Heck, it doesn't cost you anything, and it'll make me feel really good. And you want me feeling good, because when I'm crabby, I am really crabby. And one person who could share my insight into how crabby I could be is my show producer, Jeff Polly, who's joining this week. How are you, sir?
So am I supposed to interject on how crabby you've been to me over the years? Is that what you're saying?
I think this was the opportunity for you to really rag on me about my sheer level of constant crabbiness.
No, I'll just do that offline. Thanks. But thanks for having me.
Well, I really appreciate that. And make sure you go to endpointmultimedia.com and check out what he can do. Not only does he produce the show, but he's great at producing industry events and conferences, as well as doing great videos and other sorts of great creative stuff as well. I think I'm stuck saying the word great so many times because, Jeff, you're just that awesome at what you do.
Yeah, well, you know how I love being boasted upon, Thanks. Appreciate that.
I know. And your enthusiasm with it is just so real and so genuine. It just, it really makes my heart go with Twitter.
Yeah, I do what I can do.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things, Jeff, that we love to do when we're on the road is we'd like to go, we'd like to eat and explore new places. Forget all of those things that are, forget all those places within the hotels. We want to get out and we want to explore the area. And I know one of the things that we've done is we found some amazing Mexican food along the way. Seems to be one of our passion points. And also our never-ending quest to find the perfect chicken and waffles.
I love those chicken and waffles.
Right. I mean, just this week we saw, I put up on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram what's going on with California State Fair. They've now got the chicken baked into the waffles, which is really an interesting change of pace, because when we go to Hash House A Go-Go, which has multiple locations around the country, but mostly in Las Vegas, they bake that bacon right into those waffles. And man, that's still my favorite chicken and waffles.
Yeah, I can say that I'm not sure I've ever had anything quite as huge and good as those chicken and waffles. It sets me into a 4-hour or so Vegas coma right after I eat it.
And what's really funny is, speaking about our Vegas coma, for all the listeners out there, that's actually our plan. Is after a late night in Vegas, we like to get up. I like to get some work done, hit all my deadlines, and do a great lunch over at Hash House A Go-Go. And then maybe, if I'm fortunate enough, get a chance to take a nap to sleep off the chicken and waffles. An essential part of every single Las Vegas trip. And I want to hear from you folks out there. Hit me up online or send me an email about what your favorite restaurants are, because we're going to talk today about some of the most unusual restaurants that we've seen around the country. Jeff, you get a chance to go to a lot of unusual restaurants?
Through my years of traveling, yes. Whether it be the little hole in the wall in, Miami or something like that, a little tiny Cuban shop, or whatever I can find online, I always try to kind of look for that special, unique place that gives me that local feel.
Right. And that's what's really most important. And I think that's really what's on trend these days. Restaurants that really make you feel that you're part of the local community. But for today, we're going to be talking about some of the strangest restaurants that are out there. And I want to follow what your lead on this, Jeff. Tell us a little bit about some of the strange restaurants that you've learned about around the country.
All right. So for today's top of the list for Road Warriors, we came up across a couple of different lists of unique and strangest restaurant spots in America. And this I'll give credit where credit due. Mentalfloss.com, which has great lists for everything, and to me, I read it kind of often because it's kind of pretty informative and fun way to get some information. But they produced one of this list that I'm going to be pulling off of, and I really liked what they came up with because there's some really unique and crazy places out there that while you're traveling the road, you can check out and experience.
And the best part about the list on Mental Floss is they don't make you click through 12 pages for every single one that just loads up with ad after ad after ad. So thank you, Mental Floss, for respecting us and only putting on what I would say is a fair amount of advertisements on that site.
Thank you for not being a clickbait site, Mental Floss.
Yes. I hate those. You know what I love about the clickbait sites now is they're so bad that when they do the boosted Facebook posts, people will just write what's in them underneath the description to save you like an hour of your life. Love that. All right, so let's eat.
Okay, number one. Let's say you're traveling through Salt Lake City, about 30 miles outside of town. There is a restaurant called The Yurt at Solitude. I know a lot of us have never been to Mongolia and never been in a yurt. This is an opportunity to experience a yurt. And not only that, but you apparently take a 30-minute or so lantern-lit snowshoe through a forest. And then for a group of no more than 24 guests, you enjoy a gourmet meal that chefs prepare right in front of you. And experience what it's like to eat in the mountains in a yurt.
That's pretty cool. And something is off about this because they say gourmet meals. So I'm going to say it's not authentic Mongolian cuisine. I'm one of the few people that's actually been fortunate enough to go to Mongolia and actually eat a meal in a yurt and have Mongolian food experiences. And I can tell you that every single meal that I ate while I was in Mongolia for just 3 days was the worst meals I've ever had in my entire life. The food in Mongolia is absolutely horrific. So I really hope that the yurt at Solitude Mountain Resort is actually gourmet and not authentic Mongolian cuisine.
I'm imagining they step it up a little bit, kind of like our Chinese restaurants here do as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then, in China, there's the traditional Chinese restaurants, and then there's the ones that I got to go to as well, which are all absolutely great. Yeah, but when I was in Mongolia,
pretty hard to find Kung Pao chicken in Beijing.
Or General Cho's chicken because it doesn't exist in there. I actually watched a movie called Searching for General Cho, and they went to China and they were asking people about that dish and they were all confused. They had no idea what it is. And I think that most Americans don't realize that the Chinese food we eat is really just American food made by Chinese people for our palates and not the Chinese palate.
Yeah, if you've ever been to China, I know you have, and I have. It's a different world when you go trying to a restaurant and ordering a dinner.
Yes, but speaking of dinners, the one meal that that really stands out above all the rest, not just because it was bad, because all the Mongolian food was pretty pathetic, but I was in the capital city of Ulaanbaatar, and I got to go to a restaurant called Modern Nomads, and not only was the food really bad, but they had entertainment, which was actually pretty cool, Jeff. They had over there Mongolian throat singers. Have you ever seen throat singers perform live?
I actually have seen throat singers perform live it was a Christmas show for Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, and
oh my goodness!
And he had 10 Mongolian throat singers at that show doing their rendition of Jingle Bells and all modern American Christmas songs.
I love it. I think what I'll do is I got some video footage of the Mongolian throat singers from the Modern Nomads restaurant in Ulaanbaatar. Maybe I'll try to put that up in the show notes because I think you'd love to hear it. I've been working on my Mongolian throat singing, and I'm very excited. Soon I'm going to be debuting my new album. Glenn sings the love songs of Mongolia, so look out for that one, Jeff.
Can't wait to hear that.
It's going to be great. Just give you a little hint. So think about that. 90 minutes of me throat singing. I can think of no better gift for the holiday season than getting your wife, Glenn Sings Mongolian Love Classics. Available at a store near you coming this October. All right, so next up on the restaurant list, Jeff.
Okay, this is a little bit lower key than the yurt. If you're in Colorado Springs, there's a restaurant, and they've taken a 1953 Boeing KC-97 tanker and renovated the interior, and obviously it gives you a lot more leg room than what we're used to in planes, but it's a 275-seat airplane restaurant, and it's called Solos. And their menu options are flight themed, and it's kind of like runway crunchy chicken strips or air tower nachos. So I think that's a kind of a fun way to experience the inside of an older plane and get to see some cool restaurant action in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, what you don't realize is those tankers from the 1950s are actually pretty huge. According to the information you gave me, it's a 275-seat restaurant. That's pretty massive.
That's pretty big.
That's something I think kids would absolutely love. And when I was a kid out here growing up on Long Island, we had a town called Setauket. Well, I guess the town still is there. But we had a place called the Dining Car 1890. And what I loved about it is I had the opportunity to eat in a real caboose from the 1800s. And how much fun is that to really switch up the dining experience and put you in some sort of piece of history? I think it makes for a lot more fun.
It is, and repurposing those old piece of histories into something that can, generate business and commerce is really great. Up here in Colorado, we have a small little mountain town that has taken. They were an old mining town, and they've taken a bunch of their old cars and train cars, including cabooses, and conjoined them all together and made a sort of tiny shopping mall out of these cabooses and train cars. There's coffee shops, there's a restaurant, and there's a bike store and things like that. So I love repurposing history, that's for sure.
Awesome. I love it too, and I highly recommend checking that out. I'm going to be making my way out to Colorado soon, but sadly, a little too far away from Colorado Springs in order to visit that particular restaurant.
Yeah. All right. The next one on the list, we've got a really kind of cool idea around a college campus in Houston next to Texas A&M University, and the reason this is cool is because at Harvey Washbangers, you can actually do your laundry in its full-service laundromat, and then you can sit down and having their, like gut-busting fare, like their jalapeno cream cheeseburger and coconut pecan pie. They've got a bar in the laundromat, so it's not only just a place to get your clothes washed, but you can enjoy some libations and food at the same time.
Love it. That's a great idea. And I got to tell you, this is not an original idea, but it's still a good one. When I was at the University of Maryland back in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a place called Suds. It started off as a regular laundromat, but then they got hip to the idea of, what do college students like most? And they put in a video arcade and a bar. And all of a sudden, doing laundry became a lot more fun. Have you ever been to a place like this, Jeff?
I've never, I've always kind of lived in non-metro places, so I've always had a washer and dryer and wherever I've lived, so never had to use a laundromat.
Well, aren't you just spoiled? Yeah, I used a laundromat for a lot of years, especially when I lived in Brooklyn. We'd have to take the stuff to the laundromat, but they didn't have bars, and they were not nearly as much fun as I remember Suds back in my College Park days. What a fun time, what a fun place. What a great idea. All right, moving on.
Moving on. We've got an aquarium restaurant. This is a under-themed sea restaurant in Nashville. And from floor to ceiling, it actually houses a 200,000-gallon aquarium. And, what better way to, get diners in the mood for menu items like fish and chips or fried calamari or grilled mahi-mahi. The possibilities for seafood jokes are kind of endless at aquarium restaurants.
Yeah, for sure. And I really worry about the poor fish looking out and seeing all their friends being eaten. I wonder what they're thinking, if they're worried that they're next or what's going to happen to them.
I'm pretty sure they don't think that far ahead.
I don't know. I know something seems pretty fishy to me, but I've had the opportunity to eat in these kind of restaurants both at SeaWorld in Orlando and at Epcot. At Epcot down in Orlando as well, in the Living Seas Pavilion. I love that. It's such an interesting idea to be able to look at the sea while you're having the seafood, which brings a new meaning to seafood for sure. All right, what's next, Jeff?
All right, next we have a place called Fife and Drum. And this is a really unique place, and I'm not sure that I've ever even thought of going to a place like this or will ever. But if you're in Concord, Massachusetts, and you're looking for not only a good meal, but apparently a decent priced meal, this is the only restaurant in the country serving meals made by prisoners.
Wow.
And customers must go through security before entering the restaurant, and it's located in the Northeastern Correctional Center. And basically, this is a program which is meant to equip inmates with the skills they need to work in the restaurant industry. So you get a made-from-scratch meal, all for the price of $3.21, and I guess it's actually a pretty decent meal.
I wonder what kind of food that they actually serve at this type of place, because I picture getting a 2 pieces of white bread, 1 piece of bologna, and a shanking when I'm done with it.
I'm assuming that probably wouldn't prepare the prisoners in the correct way for a career in the culinary arts.
It's probably a good point, but I do like bologna and white bread sandwiches. No, I don't. That's a pretty neat idea, and I love the idea of helping these prisoners make that transition to the real world, because I think one of the problems that we have is that when these guys get out, they've got nowhere to go and no skill sets. They've been held up so long, and I think this is wonderful that they're trying to take these people and give them a chance to be successful with the rest of their lives and hopefully cut down on that recidivism rate.
Yeah, absolutely, and to offer out apparently made from scratch meals for $3.21. What a great way to introduce them to the community and for people to have, hopefully really well cooked meals for a cheap price.
Nice. All right, where else do you want to eat?
Okay, our next one is called the Rattlesnake Saloon, and I'm going to get this wrong.
Okay.
But it's in Tuscumbia, Alabama. Maybe I got that wrong, but I'm not sure. And this establishment is built beneath a cliff overhang. It's actually outside, and you are kind of in the middle of nature, which seems really, really, really cool. The tables are set up right in this cliff overhang. And they kind of have an Old West theme. So if you're thinking, riding your horse gang up there and getting a couple cocktails, they have everything for you for that occasion. But they also have chuck wagon nachos and giddy up sticks, which I'm not exactly sure what giddy up sticks are, but I'd try them.
I don't know. It sounds like a strange sex toy to me.
All right. We know where you're going.
Well, I think I want the Bronco bits, tangy bread and fried pickles sliced with dipping sauce. That sounds really good to me. Of course, they've got the Wild Bill Cody wings, which I know the pioneers like to eat for sure. But I love the idea of the atmosphere. And, they've got onion rings there, too, Jeff. Another thing for us to try if we ever get to Alabama.
I am on a quest for the search for the perfect onion ring, so
yes.
might
But
be something
Jeff,
to go.
what am I going to do if I'm out shopping for jewelry and I need some falafel?
I've heard that question only once in my life, and it was just right now. But I have the answer for you.
Right.
Yes. The Oasis Cafe in Chicago actually is in the back of a jewelry store. And they serve authentic Middle Eastern specialties. And so not only can you go and buy, that makeup jewelry for your wife because you said the wrong thing, or the engagement ring or whatever, but you can actually go back in the back and order up your falafel or your hummus while you're waiting on your jewelry to be, processed. So what a great concept and what a strange concept at the same time.
It is definitely unusual and strange. I always thought it funny when they put restaurants in unusual places. In New York City, there's a lot of those. There's ABC Carpet, and they're renowned for having multiple restaurants within there. Who would have thought that carpet and furniture shopping would be necessary to have, a high-end cafe in there that serves really quality food? But for me, best falafel I've ever had is Mamoun's in the East Village and West Village of New York. There's a couple of those locations. Be sure to check that out on McDougal Street. Super excellent late night eats. You get there around midnight. There's a line going way down the block out the door. Have you ever been to Mamoun's Falafel in New York, Jeff?
I have not. No, it's not been on my list, but now it is for sure.
But you did take us to that great Indian restaurant with all the chili lights everywhere. That was an unusual eating experience.
That is one of my favorite things to do in New York, and I go there pretty much every time.
Excellent. So, one of the things that I'd like to do, Jeff, is I eat food too much above ground. Is there any opportunities for me to eat underground?
Glenn, funny you should mention that. In Lancaster, Pennsylvania, if you ever find your way out there, the Catacombs Restaurant is a themed brewery and restaurant that you can enjoy fine wines, local brews, and classic delicacies, all within the confines of stone-lined vaults.
Wow.
Apparently, before descending into the diner, you are greeted by a costume guide and takes you on a tour of the brewery itself. They also offer ghost tours and really kind of shows you all the paranormal activity, supposedly, that occurs throughout the building. So it's kind of like a creepy underground ghost tour dinner attraction.
That's interesting. I'm actually heading out to Pennsylvania this coming weekend. We're recording the show the same day as we're putting it up. And I'll tell you, I'm going to be passing right by Lancaster, and I'm taking my guys out to Hershey, Pennsylvania. This might be a great stop on the way out there. I think they get a real kick out of this. I certainly will.
You can tell us all about it on next week's show if you go.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm still hungry, Jeff. Where else can I eat?
Next one, you and I have actually been to, and we've been to together, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And
Yep.
It's a place called the Safe House. And I think a lot of people have heard about this, but it's a really, really cool themed restaurant based on being a spy. And, it's got a secret entrance, a secret exit. All their specialties are agent or spy themed, such as the Agent Provocateur steak sandwich or the Cuban Missile Crisis. And like I said, you and I have been there. We had a great time. I know I still have my souvenir beer mug that I got from there. And if I'm ever in Milwaukee and want to enjoy a fun themed restaurant, I'm going to the Safe House.
Yeah, man, they had really good cheese curds. And I'm thinking I'd really like maybe for the next phase of my career to be hired by restaurants to name clever dishes. I love Cuban Missile Crisis as a name for a Cuban sandwich. That's a hoot. But also, if you recall, in order to get into the restaurant, we had to enter through an entrance that didn't look like it was a restaurant. And then we had to say a secret password or something and do something pretty stupid, I recall. Then we get upstairs and we realize that everyone in the restaurant can see us because we're all on monitors.
Yes. Yeah, that was, thanks, Safe House, for making us look, well, I guess they make everybody look dumb, but it's kind of part of fun.
Hey, you know what? I'd look dumb every single day. I might as well do it on camera. All right, moving on. Next one.
Okay, next one is another themed restaurant in Chicago, back in Chicago. It's called Tommy Gunn's Garage. And basically, you can pretend you're Al Capone in this speakeasy themed restaurant. So, you can wear your zoot suit or whatever you like and go chow down to dishes called Don't Call Me Chicken or The Kingpin. And before watching a music and comedy show, actors perform musical selections from Duke Ellington to George Gershwin and Cole Porter.
Awesome. I love it. I love that era. I love the vibe of this kind of thing. And the whole speakeasy restaurant trend is really taken off here in the New York region. We've got a number of those restaurants. So fun, different, interesting, and unique for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of New York, our next pick for unique restaurants is a place called Ninja, and I think you've been there, right?
I have been there. I went about 6 years ago with my twin boys for their birthday when they turned 6.
So I don't know why I'm telling you about it, but I picked this out because, to me, hearing about a place called Ninja, which is like a full experience ride, upon entry, your waiter is dressed like a ninja, asks you to pick one of two paths to your table.
Right.
The two paths are simple or dangerous. Which one did you pick?
We obviously took the dangerous one because my kids wouldn't have gone for just simple. That would have, not have been any fun for them. Gotcha.
And then I assume that, with the scene set in, like a mountain village and, it's got gorges and tunnels and drawbridges, your kids had a good time doing it, right?
They did, and what was really cool is in order to get to the restaurant with the quote-unquote dangerous path, we had to go through these like little corridors, and we went up and down a little bit, and it was just it was a lot of fun for the kids. And then you get into the dining area, which has different sections to it. So it's like kind of like a Japanese garden, and then like the inside of a Japanese home, from what I recall, and it really broke up the entire restaurant in such a fun and unique difference. The design of the place was absolutely spectacular. I mean, I loved it. My kids loved it. And then to add to that, what they did is they had like magicians coming around and performing tricks at the table for you. And they had those show elements that I think that really rounded out the experience. Unfortunately, I thought that the food was extremely overpriced and not of the quality that I would pay for. But I realized that it's more about the show than the food itself. But it's been 6 years, and I haven't gone back there again because it was really kind of a one-and-done kind of place for me, but an experience that's pretty cool nonetheless.
Well, the next restaurant on our list is pretty much the exact same thing. It's all about the experience and more about the experience and the scenery and what's going on than the actual food, apparently. So
yeah, tell me.
That is called Casa Bonita, and Casa Bonita is in my neck of the woods here in Denver, Colorado, and it's actually Cartman's from South Park favorite restaurant. If you've ever seen that episode of South Park, Casa Bonita is featured in it because it is. It's less a themed restaurant and more of an eclectic hodgepodge of entertainment. And there are wandering musicians, arcade games, a portrait studio. There's Acapulco-style cave divers jumping into the indoor waterfall and pool.
Indoor waterfall and pool?
Yes. And I've known, several people because I live out here, that make this like a birthday or a special engagement type of place, because it's just so wild and crazy and so much going on that it's just such a great experience that everybody loves it, even though the food may be a little bit overpriced and maybe, not as great quality, but it's more, again, about the entertainment value of it.
And there's something to be said about that entertainment value. And even if the food quality isn't premium, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not a great experience. And then I think that's really a lesson we can take away from all of this, that the unusual nature of some of these places, they really are the showpiece, and they're really what the actual draw is, and the food doesn't necessarily have to be good. Plus, you're going to get premium pricing on it, and you're going to get people to come back time and time again, especially if it becomes a special occasion place. I like that they're amping up the idea with what means a special occasion. For me, growing up, it was just going to a basic hibachi restaurant. Now it seems with all of these amazing places, the options are really, really expanded and wide open.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something for everyone, I think, now, and restaurateurs are taking heed to that, and you don't necessarily need to, I think, try to appease everyone. You can just kind of narrow it down and get your little niche going, and if you do it well, you can succeed.
Great. Well, that was awesome. That was a fun list, and I had a good time. And make sure, guys, you write in. Hit me up at Traveling Glenn on Twitter or Instagram. Or, better yet, drop me an email, Glenn, Glenn, at Rouse, ROUSE.media. I'd love to hear what you think are some of your coolest dining experiences. Now, one of the things that I've realized about road warriors is they don't really necessarily know how some of the nuances of the hospitality business work. It's a lot more complex than you'd think. And one of the things that we have in the hospitality industry are called management companies. Big companies, small companies, medium-sized companies that come in and actually operate hotels for different owners. So I had the opportunity to be a part of Chesapeake Hospitality's annual conference earlier this month as a speaker, as a facilitator, and I got a chance to get some of their executives on the microphone to help demystify that experience as well. So stick around, because after this interview, we're going to be talking with the executives at Chesapeake Hospitality, and you're going to learn all about why this is such a critical part of the hospitality industry. Stay tuned, and thanks for listening.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Get a $50 Best Western gift card when you stay 2 separate times. Plus, enjoy breakfast and free high-speed internet. Rewards members get even more when you book direct at bestwestern.com. Visit bestwestern.com for terms and conditions. Each Best Western branded hotel is independently owned and operated.
So that's very important to me. So, I'm down here, I'm in Tampa. I'm really glad I made it because Delta Airlines had a big snafu. But fortunately, I made a travel mistake and I came in a day early. So I guess I'm the smart guy here. And I'm down in Tampa, Florida, working with Chesapeake Hospitality. And I love these guys because you guys are a management company. And one of the things that I find is management companies, I don't think road warriors really understand what a management company is, right? So maybe we could start with talking about that. And I've got a lot of people here that are going to speak on the microphone today. I want to welcome everyone before we get into that initial question. I have Chris Green, who's the company's COO. Then I have Lisa Augustine, who's the Regional Director of Ops, and Clifford Ferrara, SVP of Sales and Marketing, and Tony Harbour, the VP of Ops. Hello, guys. How is everybody today?
Great.
Yeah, it's really great to hear from you. And I want to say right now to everyone listening, we're going to be passing around some microphones and stuff, so forgive the quality of the sound. But Chris, let me start with you on this question. One of the things that I realized when I got into the hospitality business is really how deep and complex it is. You think it's a pretty simple thing, but I find when I talk to the average consumer, they think that, we're sitting here in a Crown Plaza right now, which is an IHG property, that IHG owns those properties. But no, they're franchised like McDonald's, like Domino's, like all of those other types of things. And you guys, what you do is you manage hotels, right, for different ownership groups and ones that you own yourself, right?
Right. Yeah, it's very confusing. I can't tell you, Glenn, how many times on an airplane I spend 20 and 30 minutes trying to explain that I don't work for Hilton or Marriott or
Yeah.
one of the major brands, it's very difficult to explain what we do. So we're a third-party manager. What we do is we manage on behalf of owners. So asset owners, normally real estate investors, will buy a hotel as a real estate investment. And then they will determine the best use of that investment is as a hotel. And we, as professional operators who've all been in the business a long period of time, will keep focused on the asset. So we have management expertise. We're not real estate people, we're hotel people. And we sit between the owners, the brands, and then the guests. So we operate them day to day. And it is very confusing from the outside.
It is, and what I find interesting is that a lot of insurance companies need a place to put their money. Big funds need a place to put their money, and the hotel business is really, at the end of the day, in terms of the money-making side, it's a real estate play. It's an idea of taking your money, putting it somewhere, and maximizing those benefits to it. And I would say, Tony, you've been at this for a while. How has the management business changed in the last 20 to 30 years? I feel like there's more management companies than ever in the last 10 or 15 years.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very competitive space. And, not to give the plug for Chesapeake, but
you should.
The truth is, our core values are what's so important, our honesty, integrity, and humility. And we're very selective about the owners that we take. We believe that service leads to sales. So the guest experience is paramount in our hotels. So if we've got owners that are willing to invest in the product and improve it and make it a better experience for the guest, then those are the type owners for us.
Right.
And
Yeah, that makes sense. And Lisa, it seems to the customer, a management company is an invisible entity, right? I walk into a hotel and I don't know who owns it. I don't know who manages it. I just assume, again, it's the flag on the door. And I'll tell you, a lot of times I ask people behind the desk who the owner is and they don't even know, which is a strange thing.
Sure, and I think with branded properties in particular, I guess that's almost a good thing. That would show that the management company is doing what it should be doing in terms of being a good steward of that brand, operating the hotel in a way that's consistent with industry standards and the guest expectations, quite frankly. So they wouldn't necessarily know or see a difference or shouldn't see a difference, particularly in a branded property. In independent properties, I think the management company, serves that same role to put in place standards of service and standards for all of the business processes and practices at the property level.
Right. So essentially, the purpose of the management company is to yield as much profit as possible from the asset. You guys are brought in, it makes X amount of dollars. You've got to find ways to improve that, right, Chris?
That's exactly right. We spend a lot of time, and although we're all hotel professionals, we spend a lot of time with the ownership groups looking for ways to maximize their return. And you mentioned insurance companies. Historically, hotels have been very good investments. You can put a hotel, and they're always on good real estate normally. So you've got the underlying real estate value that always increases, but a good hotel operator can return to the net income line anywhere between 6 and 18% annually. That's a very good return and normally very stable. If you look at long-run occupancies in the hotel business, we've been above 65% for a long, long period of time, except for major blips in the industry. So I have a good friend of mine that says the hotel business is never really bad. It's always just different kind of good.
Right.
And so we have great occupancy. And even now, as things begin to slow up a little bit, we're still almost at 70% occupancy annually. That's a very, very good performing business.
Yeah, I agree with you. And things, I do believe, are slowing up. I think that we've been at this peak cycle for so long. It's a little bit surprising to see that we've been going on so long, although the trench we had to dig out starting in 2008 was so deep, I think it's really extended this cycle. But in hospitality industry jargon, I think this has been the longest cycle between peaks that we've ever had before, right?
That's correct. That's correct. I think we're at like 120 weeks or 115 weeks between peaks, and really, it's not even cycle.
Months, you mean?
Months.
Yep.
It's not even a cycle. Now they're saying it's event to event. So if you look, I think we went 86 weeks or 86 months between 9/11 and then 2008,
right,
when things started slowing down. And now we're really in a long run period, 120 months of upswing or RevPAR growth, and we haven't seen what that black swan event might be. We've seen softening due to oil. We've seen softening due to increased product coming into the market, new build, which is still under the long run growth line for hotel rooms into the market. So things are softening, but I think that there's just a bunch of different factors that are slowing things down. I don't think we've seen a big tightening yet.
Yeah, you talk about these black swan events. I'm curious if there really will be one. 9/11 was a giant one, right? I know, but I'm starting to feel like every day we're dealing with these issues of terrorism. We're hearing stories, of negativity coming around. Our political landscape is really crazy as we're in this election cycle. I think that people are accustomed to things being crazy. And I think that what that's done is it's created a foundation for people to just ignore what's going on. They're not as affected by it. They've become kind of used to it. And I think they travel a lot more. But I want to know, how many properties are you guys managing right now?
So we are at 32 properties under contract right now and just under 7,000 rooms under management. So
And I know that you folks don't want to grow too big, so that's a comfortable size for you.
it is. We're looking at mid 40s for a target size for our organization. And one of the things that Tony mentioned, we do a lot of business with the same clients. So we've got organic growth going on. A lot of our current clients are actually either in building phase or in acquisition phase now. So we're not looking a lot outside. We only do the right deals outside, but our current clients are very, very satisfied. So we're growing organically, which is nice, with people we already do business with.
Well, that's the best way to do it. And the way that the hospitality industry is shaking out right now is construction has really been on the uptick for the last couple of years, but I don't think we've really put full throttle in that now. But a lot of the folks that you are working with, they're building new hotels, they're buying new hotels, and then you're getting to manage those properties.
Correct. A lot of adaptive reuse.
Right.
A lot of adaptive reuse, a lot of rebranding, we're seeing, and this is a very interesting concept. I think, Glenn, you and I have talked about this before, and you asked this question of Tony, a lot of new management companies. Well, I think Chesapeake's been in business for 60 years. So as the RevPAR has risen over the past 7 years, I think we've seen new management companies. What will be interesting is as things slow down is which management companies hang on. Chesapeake's a very deep organization with very deep talent base, and we've been through lots and lots of cycles. So we have the bench strength and the bandwidth to get through them. And this is where we're kind of seeing people coming to Chesapeake now and saying, okay, I know what you guys did in the last downturn. How do we prepare for the downturn? And we know you're going to be here because you've been in business 60 years, same company, same family.
Yeah.
It's positive for us.
Yeah, I have a suspicion that a lot of management companies have started because folks are working at the big brands and then hit a certain age and kind of get moved outside the company, to be polite about it, and then they're like, what am I going to do? I'm either going to be a consultant or start a management company, So I see a lot of that happening. But
there's a risk there, Glenn, though.
Yeah.
There's a risk in starting. I mean, Chesapeake has a significant corporate staff, and we have professional staff in revenue management, development, construction, operations, sales and marketing, e-commerce. There's a lot of management companies that have, it can't be the Chris Green management company with myself and one accounting person and one person answering the phones, because that's not a management company.
Right.
A management company can literally run an organization that crosses 20 or 30 states and does business in all those states, and that takes a pretty deep corporate operation to do that.
how many people do you have on staff throughout all the properties and the company?
We're approaching 3,000 associates nationwide, and corporate staff is at 50 plus now.
Wow.
Just corporate staff.
That's absolutely tremendous. Clifford, I'm sorry you're sitting here and I haven't had a chance to bring you in on the conversation, but as SVP in sales and marketing, your expertise is a little different than what we've been talking about. At the beginning of the conversation, we started out by talking about how the brands are what the customer can really relate to. You're working in a company that deals with multiple brands. So what is your role as a sales and marketing person? Is it to try to make deals with companies to stay at your 32 properties, or what do you exactly do and how's that play out?
Well, when we go into any market, any hotel, we're analyzing the market, where the business is. Obviously, if we have the location, we have the quality product, and we want to build the top line, we're looking at the business that's ideal for our hotel. The business traveler is key midweek business. Leisure on weekends, conference groups during the week too, and weekends, social business. But for our, what we're looking at is a constant pursuit of who we can bring in our hotel, and whatever brand we are, we will bleed that brand's colors, and we will want to, that particular way, if there's a national corporation that is using Hilton hotels, and we have 4 Hiltons in 5 cities or something, 4 cities, then we will obviously connect the dots there.
Right. Tony, speaking of working with multiple brands, is that easier or harder to do than working with just one brand across an entire, management company system?
Well, I think it's easier because it gives you more insights to our business. I mean, if you're locked into one single brand, you're not always aware of what's in your rearview mirror. So because we have Marriott, a lot of Hilton, DoubleTrees, Crown Plazas, and especially Hotel Indigo brands, we have a diversity in many different markets that gives us an insight to a market that other people dealing with a single brand might not have.
Lisa, how about you? How do you take best of practices from maybe one brand and then maybe apply it to another brand in order to rise the entire company?
Well, we really do that. All of us have been operators at the property level for a number of years. I've been in the business for 27 years. I've worked with a portfolio of hotels, and I take those best practices that I have in my arsenal and the best practices that are going on in the field at the hotels that I work with. Tony and I share best practices all the time, and we take sort of the best ideas and see how they apply in a particular hotel in a particular market, whatever their strengths and weaknesses and opportunities are, and we really try and leverage our industry knowledge and strength in operations and make sure that we're putting those best practices into place in the field.
And I think you need best practices because the customer is more persnickety than ever, right? They're not going to give you a break. They want things to be the best. And one of the things that you need to do is make sure that you're continuing to recapitalize the properties, make sure that the rooms look great, but also that technology component of it, Chris. How does that work for you folks to make sure the rooms look great and you have the best technology? Because now you're talking a lot of money that you have to invest constantly.
So it's a great question, Glenn. It's a great point. I don't know how technical you want me to get, but here's the deal. In 5, 6, and 7, a lot of hotels were built, a lot of hotels were renovated, so we're coming up on 16, 17, 18 pips. The normal life cycle of a hotel and the product improvement planner is about 10 years. And with the advances in technology that we're seeing and the requirements for technology, HD television, super high amounts of bandwidth at the hotels, there's an intense capital requirement on the hotels to improve your infrastructure to get that done. At the same time, we have hotels that are aging. At the same time as that, we have new hotels being built, supply coming into the market. So the challenge for a hotel owner nowadays that has got a hotel that they bought in 2006 or 7 is where do they invest strategically their capital dollars? Are they going to make sure that the guest has the very best internet and the very best TV like they do at home and maybe refinish the furniture? Or do they replace all the furniture and go with average internet? And it's a challenge. It's something that we have to talk about with our ownership groups to make sure that they're deploying their capital the most strategic fashion to drive what their guests want.
And one of the things that I find causes a lot of friction is that technology investment, because you need to keep ahead of it, but you have to make sure that you're guessing that you're doing the right type of technology every single time. I think it's easy to guess when it comes to TVs. People want bigger TVs all the time. I think when I entered the business, standard TVs were 25-inch tube TVs. Now they're 42-inch flat screen panels and going up. Lisa's saying that they're going up, which is kind of crazy to me, but makes sense because I've got a nice sized TV at home. I want at least that. If I go to a hotel and I see a much smaller TV, I consciously and maybe sometimes subconsciously think, oh, this place is cheaping out. So, Tony, what are you thinking about?
Well, listen, it's really important to understand that the technology's changed so much, the demands on technology. If you think about even 4 years ago, Glenn, you're a seasoned road warrior. I've been in this 30 plus years. I used to travel with a device. Now, right, if I've got my wife and my 2 daughters and we're traveling, we could have 6 devices.
Easy.
So think about the bandwidth and what that requires from an investment opportunity. You know, we're having to run fiber optic and CAD6 cable and really get technical on how to satisfy the needs of the traveler. But what really has happened in the last year is the brands. The brands get it, and they've really been pretty aggressive about mandating what the minimum acceptable Wi-Fi is and the bandwidth. Most all brands now require 100 meg up, 100 meg down, burstable. So the technology are there for the demands of the new traveler, which isn't just the road warrior, it's the weekend and family and the devices that come with that.
And we are online all the time. And I feel badly for folks in your position and for the brands because the customer demands to have that high-speed internet service that they're used to at home. But it's so costly. And I see it now as it being a utility. It's as critical as electricity and water. Especially in the customer mindset. So how do you balance all of this? Maybe, Clifford, this is a great time to bring you back in, because those younger folks that are getting on the road now and starting to travel, they need more and more and more.
Well, that's a good point, because we need, if we're going to bring in the business traveler, the corporate road warrior, we need a competitive advantage. And we may have a company X that is Hilton brand loyal, and we may have company X that is a Marriott brand loyal. And so when we know that, and that's the intel going back to what Lisa said,
right,
by managing many different brands, I think it gives us a leg up for us to see and acknowledge what that traveler wants in that city. For us in our hotels, we're in a changing, I would say over the next 5 years, a changing paradigm right now, where still it's the baby boomer is the dominant road warrior traveler. And in about 5 years, that will transition to where the millennials, you keep reading and hearing about the millennial traveler, but they'll have been in the market maybe 10, 12 years by then. That sector will eventually outpace the buying power of the baby boomers. And it's kind of a quandary for a hotel right now.
I think it is. And I think one of the misnomers that we see in the hospitality industry is focusing so much on that millennial traveler today at the expense of remembering the older baby boom traveler. And as we said before we got on the microphones, me, my poor Gen X traveler, nobody cares about us anymore. We're the forgotten generation. We're also statistically speaking, the smallest generation that the country's ever had. And believe it or not, the millennial generation is bigger than the baby boom generation. I give the early Gen Xers and the late baby boomers a lot of credit for making such a big generation to follow them up. But that's really starting to change the dynamic in the hotels. And I've said it before in columns that I write for Hotel Management Magazine, that I'm not sure that specifically brands dedicated to millennials is the way to go, but we have to figure out how to appeal towards the baby boomer audience and that emerging millennial audience at the same time. Clifford, how are you able to do that? It seems like a tightrope walk.
It is a tightrope walk, and it also speaks to what Chris Green was saying about those hotels that are coming up on PIP in the relicensing period are facing headwinds of new millennial brands that all the large brands are putting out that are brand new builds. They have all the bells and whistles when it comes to tech. And then, how am I going to appeal to that traveler with a hotel of, 250 room, brand that has been the road warrior hotel in the city. So I don't want to lose the share.
Right.
So I've also got to balance what the owner can do with the asset we have, and basically, to the best of our ability, continue relentlessly pursuing market share and keeping our customers, retaining them. And I think that's what Chesapeake does very well, regardless of the facility we're in. It's that guest service, it's genuine, sincere service, and great food and beverage, great guest room experience, and many days that still wins it.
Yeah, and what you're telling me, you're not saying the words, but what you're telling me, and I've talked about this before, is I think that no matter how old you are, we all kind of want the same things. And I think it's a little bit of a red herring to split us up from generation to generation to generation. I think that the millennials, because they're called digital natives, and what that is essentially folks that have grown up in the post-internet era and have never known a world without it. And then there's the older folks, digital immigrants, starting with my generation and the baby boomers, who have to learn how to adapt to all of this new technology. So I think that kind of tricks us into thinking that we're all different, and the millennials are super alien to what us older folks might be. But I think at the end of the day, we all really want the same things. But yet, still, Clifford, you have to try to appeal to each of these groups in a different fashion. So how do you manage to hit the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, and the millennials all with the same kind of messaging that makes them want to come and then makes them happy when they're here?
I would say we're very granular in our look and approach to. We look at every market segment and who's traveling in that segment in that city, and we strategize how to go after that business. But rather than just say business traveler, there's national corporate, traveler. You got your local corporate. You have the person that's coming in and booking bar rates. That's really a corporate traveler, and it's knowing who is actually staying in your hotel, and that comes from our front desk and us knowing who our real customer truly is.
Right, and for those who are not industry folks, bar rate means best available rate. Chris, what did you want to add?
I'm a little bit I may oversimplify things. I mean, I like to.
I like that. I need things oversimplified. I can't handle complex issues.
I like to spend my life in simple.
Yeah.
One of our speakers today talked about simplifying, and I think hospitality is universal. I really do, and I believe that nothing's going to change. No matter what generation we're talking about, is going to change the fact that a great smile, a gracious smile, a warm thank you, a hot meal that's served properly, a comfortable bed with a good TV, and yes, great fast internet like you have at home. But I think that we Glenn, you have a very good point. I think we're over pursuing the millennial generation when we should be pursuing hotel customers, people that travel, because that's what we do for a living. We're all hotel people, and we want you to come stay with us and enjoy our hospitality.
Right. Excellent. Tony?
Hey, just to parlay on what Chris said, I think it's interesting for me as much as I travel and what we've done at a lot of our hotels. In the public areas, we now have communal spaces, and so you would think that a lot of the communal spaces was really intended for the millennials. That's really not what's happening. If we went to some of our communal spaces in our hotel, I would see Glenn sitting there, who's an old guy now.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
No, it's
so
true.
We'd see you.
It's true.
You would see,
AARP is hunting me down. I'm like, not yet, not yet. A few more years.
So we'd see Glenn sitting next to the millennials and the Gen Xers, all like in collaboration in an area that's having food, beverage, drink, and finding out from each other. I see it every day. When you look at these new communal spaces that we put in a lot of hotels, it goes across generations, and it's impacting the way travel is perceived and understood, and that's how we at Chesapeake are really focusing on the overall guest experiences. We're not grouping them into individual pods, but we're making the overall experience better through these communal areas.
I think the only thing that surprises me about communal areas is it took so long for the hotel industry to realize it. We are a social species, right? So we all want to hang out together. Nobody wants to be locked in a room. There's nothing, I think, worse than when I'm on a business trip all alone and I'm stuck in that guest room and don't have anywhere to go to be either social with people or what I like to call being alone together. Lisa, are you finding a big trend towards people really utilizing the public spaces?
Yes, absolutely. And I look at us, we're all road warriors too. Each one of us travels 3 or 4 nights a week. And I'm the same way. I go upstairs, drop off my bag and grab my laptop and head downstairs to sit in the lobby and work or, sit in the restaurant or bar. And we crave that human interaction. And you kind of want to unwind at the end of the day by being with others and, maybe talk travel stories or whatever. But we really want to be around others. And so we see that playing out in our hotels every single day. We've seen increases in food and beverage spend in recent years because of this sort of community atmosphere that we're setting up in our food and beverage outlets. And we're seeing a lot more seating spaces in lobbies. And I've got a library in one of the hotels in my portfolio. And people utilize those spaces extensively now.
I love that. And before Clifford, you have a chance to add something. I want to say something to my wife real quick. You see, Helene, I don't travel all that much. These folks are on the road 3-4 days a week. I told you I know a lot of people that travel more than me. So thank you for your patience and allowing me to travel so much. Clifford.
Just tagging on to what Lisa was saying is the communal spaces and hotel lobbies. It's as if people are just, the light bulb went off and this is what they want to do.
Right.
This is what the grand hotels of the past always had.
I love that point.
And what you have is when real estate hotel boom really hit, people are looking at cost value. So they were cutting down on their lobby spaces and looking at number of guest rooms they can do. And so the lobbies over the years, past 20 years, got smaller and smaller. But it's kind of reverting back to that. And it was there before. An added touch now is, okay, let's make everything local, and tie it into your community. But it's, again, differentiating the generations. It's the millennial lobby is not the millennial lobby. It's the hotel lobby of before.
Great, and I appreciate you guys saying that. That's very important to me because it just drives me crazy that we're breaking up people by demographics. I'm all about breaking it up by psychographics, right? Psychographics is the whole idea of how we view ourselves, not by age or religion or race, but who we think we are and the activities that we like to do and the things that we like to enjoy. And I think that's a better way to try to connect with people by dealing with psychographics. I remember back in the day, Joie de Vie Hotels, which is a big hotel company, they built hotels based on different magazines, right? So they'd say, let's build a hotel based on Rolling Stone. What is the psychographic for Rolling Stone? What about Time magazine? So I thought that was a very interesting point. You know, Chris, what other types of changes are you seeing these days in terms of the customer mindset?
The customer just wants ease of transaction. I mean, really, we are, even me as a early Gen Xer, I want an easy transaction. I want to be able to book on my phone. I want to be able to book I can check into the airplane on my phone. I want to be able to book my room. I want to be able to select my room if possible. I want to be able to select my amenities. I like to know what's available in the marketplace. The good hotels now send you an email telling you what's going on in the market. Maybe there's a Rays game tonight and how they can help me get into the Rays game. I want to know, I mean, if you're going to be out and traveling, you want to experience, Clifford hit on it, the local the local fare, the local experience. If you're in Tampa, you want to know about Ybor City and the things that are going on in the Tampa marketplace. So, I mean, those are the things that are happening. More informational, because we can get information to the consumers now through digital marketing and e-commerce and mobile. But really, it's still about ultimately what happens once you check in. And, I mean, you can tell them tell the story before, and then you got to make sure you ask them after to tell everybody in the world about your hotel, because TripAdvisor rules and the Yelp rules. We've got to hear from the good clients, and people are buying now. I think that's leveled the playing field, Glenn. That's a point I was going to talk to you about. You see more independent hotels popping up nowadays. Well, why is that? Because the playing field's been leveled. The OTAs now have provided booking engines for all of them, and TripAdvisor provided what the name Marriott and Hilton used to provide, surety of performance. But now you can go on TripAdvisor and gain surety of performance of your stay. You know, if 50 people rated it 5 stars, it's probably a good hotel.
And that's what I do with Yelp all the time. Honestly, I don't feel comfortable going to a new restaurant without understanding what Yelp has to say about it first. Just the other day, I did that. I went to the one that was 4.5 stars instead of the one that was 3.5 stars, and I didn't even think too deeply about it. So if you're not out there excelling at your performance, you're not going to make any headway with the customer base. Any final thoughts at this point? I feel like we're hitting a lot of good points today. Tony, anything?
No, I just the local stuff is so important now to integrate it into the stay. And we're doing, like in Memphis, for instance, there's a brewery there, Ghost River. We serve only their beers on tap now because that's what the consumer wants, and we're doing that across our portfolio.
That's great. I wish you didn't mention that, because I know I'm supposed to speak here tomorrow, but I'm leaving to go to Memphis right now.
Well, I can tell you where the best barbecue is, too.
Well, I'm a huge barbecue fan. As a matter of fact, I've got a podcast scheduled with the #1 barbecue joint in Brooklyn. Believe it or not, Brooklyn is becoming an outpost for barbecue, and I'm looking forward to speaking with Matt Fisher at Fletcher soon. I'm sorry, Matt, I haven't gotten to you yet. Well, that's all the time that we have today. I want to thank all of these great executives from Chesapeake Hospitality for joining me on the show. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. And I want to thank you all for listening as well. And please give me those 5 stars on iTunes. I'm working hard over here. I could use a little of your help. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at TravelingGlenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.